So we looked at locus in general. But now let's go back to our quadratics. What we're more interested in now is how do we define it geometrically, the parabola? Yes, we know the basic one's y equals x squared. There's the formal definition. A point moves so that its distance from a point, which we call the focus, is equal to its distance from a line, which we call the directrix. So the other day, you'll recall, we looked at ones where it was a fixed distance from just a point. We looked at ones that were a fixed distance from 2 points. Well, this one's from a point and a line. So there's our random point, which I'm going to conveniently call S for focus. And we'll give it coordinates. Well, we'll say it's A. Now, if I want this parabola or to go through the origin, then I know that its distance from the focus is A. So my fixed line, I'm going to make a horizontal line, y equals negative A. And so that way I've sort of forced it so that the origin will become part of this curve, because the origin will be both A units from S and A units from that line as well. So there's the origin. But we want all the points to satisfy it. So there'll be another one out there, excuse my scale. Trust me, those distances are the same.
Yeah.
They might not look it, but they are. Use your imagination. There's another one over there, and another one there, another one there, another one there, another one there. We're starting to get the curved shape.
Whoa.
There it is. So we're going to end up with a parabolic shape. So all right, there's random point xy. Let's find its equation. Remember, we sort of know it's y equals x squared, but let's prove it. The distance from a point, so P is xy, we're going to the point 0a, is equal to its distance to a line, but of course it must be the perpendicular distance. Now m is directly under P, so it'll have the same x coordinate, but its y coordinate will be negative A. So those two distances are equal. Sub into our distance formula. Expand out, tidy up, and we get x squared is 4ay. So I didn't get the standard one of y equals x squared, but I've got some multiple of it. Steepness is different to y equals x squared. So when we're looking at it in this form, rather than making y the subject, we tend to make x squared the subject. So x squared is equal to 4ay. So when I can rewrite my quadratic in that form, I know that that vertex of the parabola will be the origin. That's the way we sort of forced the problem. So it'll be the origin. The focus will be naught a. The directrix will be y equals negative a. So all we're going to do is look at the equation and work out what a is, basically. And once we know a, we can determine all these features. A is known as the focal length. I suppose technically it should be absolute value of a, because you can't have a negative length. X squared equals 32y. What's the focus? Focal length, the directrix. So we know x squared is 4ay. 4a therefore is 32. I know a is 8, so the focal length is 8 units. Now, I like to draw myself a little sketch to make sure of it. So there's my parabola. We said the vertex was 0, 0. The focus will be a units above it, so yes, it's 0, 8. The directrix will be 8 units below it, so it's y equals negative 8. Yes, I could have just substituted into that formula, but this is just a way of thinking about the problem, so later on when we shift the vertex, it becomes a little bit easier. So let's try this one. Y equals 4x squared, because remember it's got to be in the form with x squared being the subject. So 4a is actually a quarter, not 4. So 4a is a quarter, a is 1/16. So focal length is 1/16. Again, there's my parabola. 0, 0. We're 1/16 above, so 0, 1/16. 1/16 below for the directrix. We get y equals negative 1/16. So it's all fairly straightforward when the vertex is at the origin. Okay, well, what about this one then? The focus is at 0, negative 2. The directrix is at y equals 2. What would the equation be? Well, A is negative 2. The focus is not A. So we know x squared equals 4ay. We get x squared equals minus 8y. In the second one, the focus is 3 naught. Hang on. This parabola is on its side, because you'll notice the directrix is not y equals, it's x equals. So a is 3, so instead of x squared equals 4ay, it'll be y squared equals 4ax. And so we get y squared is 12x. Okay, so as I say, it's at the origin, it's all fairly straightforward. X squared is 4ay. All we're really got to do is work out a, and I guess the other thing we've got to work out is it a vertical parabola or is it a horizontal parabola? Well, we know the idea of shifting from when we were doing curve sketching. So I could just rearrange it. Instead of being x squared equals 4ay, I now think of it as x minus p squared is 4ay minus q, a bit like we do with the circle. The vertex then would be PQ. That's where we've shifted the origin to. So my focus will be A units above the focus, so it'll become PQ plus A. The directrix will be A units below the focus, so it'll be Y equals Q minus A. Focal length doesn't change, all we've done is shifted the parabola, so it's still A units. So they've told me the vertex is 3, 1. It has a focal length of 2 units. So x squared equals 4ay, but we're shifting it to 3, 1. So it's x minus 3 squared is 4ay minus 1. Well, there it is in factorised form. That's probably good enough for an answer. X minus 3 squared is 8y minus 1. But if you do want to make y the subject, there's the equation where y is the subject. 1/8 x squared minus 6x plus 17. Of course, who said the parabola was concave up? It might be concave down. In which case, A would be negative 2. Focal length is still 2, but A is negative 2. And that will get me the parabola x minus 3 squared is equal to negative 8y minus 1. And that gets y equals negative 8 x squared minus 6x plus 1. But of course, who's to say it was a vertical parabola? It might be a horizontal parabola. So it might have been y squared equals 4ax. So we get y minus 1 squared is 8x minus 3. And that one becomes x equals an 8y squared minus 2y plus 25. But hey, who said it was open on the left-hand side? It might be the other way around. So it might be minus 4ax. And we'll get... Now, of course, who said it was vertical or horizontal? It might be at an A. Actually, there's an infinite number of answers to this question, but we'll stop there at 4. I think that'll do us enough. Focus 2/8, directrix y equals 10. I think we're safe with this one because focus and directrix pretty much fixes our parabola, I think. It'll be concave down because you'll notice the directrix is higher than the focus. Because there's my directrix, y equals 10. I know that's A units from the vertex. And I know the focus is A units below. This is where drawing a sketch, I think, comes in handy because I can say, well, there's going to be 2A going from 8 to 10. So I know that A is just 1 for this one. That means the vertex must be at the point 2, 9. I've got A, I've got my vertex, so I've got my answer. X minus 2 squared, it's upside down though, so it'll be negative 4 times y minus 9. That's it factorised. If we were to make y the subject, eventually, there we go, y is minus a quarter x squared minus 4x minus 20. All right, now we're going to find the vertex, the focus, the focal length, the directrix, all the information we want of this one. 12y is x squared minus 6x minus 3. Okay. Well, let's rearrange it. I want to get it in the form x squared equals 4ay. Now, yes, it's got 6x there as well, and there's a 3, but really, it's the x squared and the 4ay that are key. I'll complete the square on the right-hand side, because I know there's a shift happening. So instead of x squared, I'm going to have x minus something. So much like we did with the circle, we complete the square on the x. So it becomes x minus 3 all squared. On the left-hand side, I factorise out whatever the coefficient of y is. Now, in this case, that's easy because both numbers are 12. But it doesn't matter what the constant is. Y is the key. So factorise that out because the coefficient of y is going to be 4a. That's what we're factorising out. So 4a is 12. So I know a is 3. Focal length, 3 units. The vertex now I can read from my equation. I know it's shifted, the x value is shifted to 3. The y value, remember when it's grouped with the y, what makes that equal to 0? So it's gone to -1. So there's my vertex. Now, again, I'll draw myself up a little picture. It is concave up. We just said the vertex was 3 minus 1. Focus will be a units above. We said a was 3. So, okay, focus is 3, 2. Directrix will be a units below. So directrix will be y equals -4. So we can find it. I think that's all the information we need, isn't it? Yes, that's all the information they've asked for.